Could one of the greatest stories ever told be more legend than fact? This question, simple yet profound, has lingered in the minds of both learned scholars and devout believers across the centuries. We stand at the cusp of an ancient enigma, one that beckons us to unravel its secrets with careful scrutiny and humble hearts. The narrative in question is none other than the Exodus, a cornerstone of both Jewish and Christian traditions. Its account of divine intervention, miraculous signs, and the deliverance of a people from bondage is etched into the collective consciousness of countless generations. As we embark on this journey of exploration, let us hold close the impactful words from the divine revelation. And the Lord said, I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt. Exodus 3:7, NIV. These words ring with a promise and a purpose, inviting us to peer beyond the veil of time and into the heart of a story that continues to inspire and challenge. Together we shall delve into the layers of this ancient mystery, examining historical contexts, theological implications, and the enduring impact of the Exodus on faith and culture. Whether viewed through the lens of history or embraced as a profound allegory, the tale before us calls for a deeper understanding and an openness to both its legendary stature and potential historical roots. In the grand tapestry of the Exodus narrative, certain key threads capture the essence of this monumental story. Imagine, if you will, the opening scene in Exodus 1:1-14. Here, the descendants of Jacob, who are now numerous, find themselves oppressed in a foreign land. Now there arose a new king over Egypt, who knew not Joseph, a line that echoes the coming of a shadow over what was once a haven. As the Hebrews increase, the Pharaoh's heart hardens, leading to harsh decrees and the cruel burden of slavery. Their lives, once thriving, now reduced to toil and tears, laid the groundwork for a deliverance long foretold. In Exodus 3:1-22, we encounter the divine encounter that would alter the fate of a nation. Moses, tending flocks in the wilderness, comes upon the burning bush, a flame that burns yet does not consume. From this mysterious fire, the voice of God calls out, "Moses, Moses," and he responds, "Here I am." God's command is clear, "I have surely seen the affliction of my people which are in Egypt, and have heard their cry." Here, in this moment of divine human interaction, Moses is tasked with a mission of epic proportions. He is to confront Pharaoh and lead his people to freedom, with the assurance, "I will be with you." As the narrative crescendos to Exodus 12:31-42, we witness the culmination of God's intervention through the horrific plagues that befell Egypt. The final devastating plague, the death of the firstborn, breaks the will of Pharaoh. "Rise up, get you forth from among my people," he commands, in a tone steeped in despair and defeat. The Hebrews, whose homes were marked with the blood of the Passover lamb, gather in haste, their bread unleavened, as they prepare for their exodus. With a strong hand and an outstretched arm, the Lord leads them out of Egypt, forever etching this moment into their collective memory. This passage marks not just a physical departure, but also a transformative journey towards a new identity as a free and chosen people. Through these key verses, the story of Exodus offers a rich tapestry of suffering, divine encounter, and ultimate liberation. These texts are not merely ancient records, but living words that continue to inspire and challenge readers to this very day. They invite us to reflect on themes of oppression, deliverance, and the enduring presence of the divine amidst human struggle. The tale of the Exodus, my dear readers, is one of the most profound and riveting narratives etched in the annals of sacred scripture. Picture this: a small infant placed in a wicker basket and set adrift on the Nile, a grim yet hope-filled measure to save him from a tyrannical decree. This child, Moses, is plucked from the waters by none other than Pharaoh's own daughter, raised amidst the splendor of Egyptian royalty, and yet destined for a far nobler purpose. Moses, upon growing into a man, encounters a profound call from God. It isn't through grandiose means, but through a humble burning bush that refuses to be consumed by the flames. God speaks to Moses, pointing him toward a monumental task, to liberate the Hebrew people from the chains of their Egyptian oppressors. It is here that our story gains momentum, for God equips Moses with signs and wonders to confront Pharaoh's hardened heart. The cascading calamities known as the plagues of Egypt are nothing short of divine drama. The Nile turns to blood, frogs swarm the land, gnats and flies inflict misery, livestock perish, boils erupt on man and beast alike, hailstorms ravage the fields, locusts devour what remains, and an impenetrable darkness blankets the land. Yet Pharaoh's heart remains obstinate. It is the final plague, the death of the firstborn, that shatters his resolve and forces him to relent. With Pharaoh's reluctant consent, the Hebrews make their exodus from Egypt, a flight not just to freedom, but toward a covenantal destiny. This hurried departure is immortalized in the Feast of Passover, where unleavened bread, symbolizing the haste of their flight, is pivotal in the commemoration. The grandeur of the next event cannot be overstated. At the Red Sea, with Pharaoh's army in hot pursuit, divine intervention again alters the course of history. The sea parts, presenting a dry path for the Hebrews, and collapses back upon the pursuing Egyptians, sealing their escape. Their journey, however, is not merely about escape, but about forging a new identity. In the wilderness, they are shaped by trials and divine instructions. God provides manna from heaven to sustain them, water from the rock to quench their thirst, and at Mount Sinai, the 10 Commandments, laying the foundation for a society underpinned by divine law. The story of Exodus is not simply a historical recount within the Hebrew Bible or Old Testament to Christians. It is foundational, dictating the rhythm of worship, ethical behavior, and communal identity. This saga of liberation and covenant resonates through ages, inspiring countless generations within Jewish and Christian traditions. As we ponder this extraordinary narrative, let us remember its timeless message. Here lies a profound allegory of spiritual journey, one of liberation from bondage, of trusting in divine providence, and of striving toward a divinely ordained destiny. The story of Exodus is indeed a bedrock upon which faith stands firm, a testament to enduring hope and divine fidelity. Ah, dear listener, we find ourselves at the threshold of an immense historical tapestry, an epoch fraught with grandeur and peril. Imagine, if you will, the ancient land of Egypt, a place where the sun god Ra reigned supreme, where the great river Nile breathed life into the parched desert lands, and where colossal monuments pierced the heavens, a testament to human ingenuity and divine aspiration. Egypt, with its realms of sand and stone, was far more than a mere beacon of civilization. It was an empire whose legacy still whispers to us through the mists of time. At the supposed time of the Exodus, which traditional accounts place around the 13th century BCE, Egypt was a formidable power under the rule of the New Kingdom. This was an era marked by the reigns of potent pharaohs such as Seti I and his son, Ramses II, often thought to be the pharaoh of the Exodus narrative. Ramses II, known also as Ramses the Great, was a master builder and a shrewd military tactician. His reign heralded both the zenith of Egyptian architectural splendor and a steadfast assertion of Egyptian might. To fully grasp the historical and political landscape of this period, one must consider the intricate tapestry of power and social order that Egypt wove with great care. The pharaoh, revered as a god-king, wielded absolute authority. The very breath of the people depended on his favor, and his decrees were inextricable from the divine will. The pyramid builders, the craftsmen of Karnak, the farmers along the Nile, all these souls were bound to a complex hierarchy that defined their livelihoods and their destinies. Now within this hierarchy were the Hebrew slaves, an oppressed people laboring under the yoke of subjugation. Their plight, recounted with poignant familiarity in the biblical text, reflects a broader narrative of suffering and hope. They toiled in the construction of the store cities of Pithom and Ramses, enduring harsh conditions and the relentless commands of their taskmasters. Their existence was one of daily toil, their backs bent under the weight of brick and stone, their spirit yearning for deliverance. One can scarcely speak of this time without acknowledging the dynamic and often harsh political climate. Egypt was a nation perpetually vigilant, ever aware of threats from beyond its borders and within. The pharaohs, with their grandiose projects and relentless campaigns of expansion, strove to secure Egypt's dominance. The kingdom's wealth and stability were maintained through a delicate balance of diplomacy, force, and the unwavering belief in their divine entitlement to rule. Thus, when one envisions the setting for the Exodus, it is within a land of stark contrasts, corridors of power and pyramids of stone juxtaposed against the painful cries of an enslaved people, a society that celebrated astonishing achievements, yet was marred by the cruelty of enforced labor. It is in such a crucible of tension and grandeur, of human suffering and divine intervention, that the story of the Exodus unfolds. Reflecting upon this historical context, we find a narrative that is both specific to its time and universal in its themes. It prompts us to consider the complexities of freedom and oppression, the nature of divine justice and human resilience. And so, as we delve deeper into the mysteries of the Exodus, let us not forget the vibrant, tumultuous backdrop against which this profound tale of liberation and faith was set. In the grand drama of the Exodus, three monumental figures stand in the spotlight: Moses, Aaron, and Pharaoh. Their roles are not merely historical footnotes, but vivid characters that drive the narrative forward, embodying themes of leadership, faith, and divine confrontation. Let us first turn our gaze to Moses, a man of profound destiny and deep complexity. Born during a time of severe oppression, Moses' very survival was a testament to divine providence. His mother, in an act of desperate faith, placed him in a basket on the Nile, where he was discovered and adopted by Pharaoh's daughter. The irony was divine. The deliverer of the Hebrews was nurtured in the house of their oppressor. Moses grows up in the Egyptian court, yet his heart is with his people. This duality marks his early life until a moment of righteous anger compels him to kill an Egyptian beating a Hebrew slave. Forced to flee, he spends years in Midian, seemingly removed from his purpose, until a divine encounter reshapes his destiny. The burning bush, an ordinary shrub ablaze with an extraordinary flame, becomes the altar from which God speaks, commissioning Moses as the liberator of Israel. "I have surely seen the affliction of my people," God declares, "and I have come down to deliver them." Exodus 3, verse 7-8, NIV. Moses is both reluctant and flawed, questioning his worthiness and ability. "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh?" he asks, to which God responds with unwavering assurance, "I will be with you." Exodus 3, 11-12, NIV. Here, C.S. Lewis would note that true leadership is not born from self-confidence, but from the certainty that one's strength comes from beyond oneself. Moses embodies this paradox of divine reliance. Alongside Moses stands Aaron, his brother and spokesperson. When Moses protests that he is slow of speech and tongue, Exodus 4:10 NIV, God appoints Aaron to be his mouthpiece. Aaron's role is pivotal. He mediates between Moses and the people, reassuring them of the promises of God. It is Aaron who performs the signs before Pharaoh and the people, turning his staff into a serpent and initiating the plagues with God's power. Aaron is more than a secondary character. He is the voice that amplifies Moses' message, embodying the collaborative nature of divine missions. He represents the supportive role that often goes uncelebrated, but is crucial to the fulfillment of great purposes. Then there is Pharaoh, the antagonist whose hardened heart becomes the canvas upon which God's power and judgment are displayed. Pharaoh is depicted not just as a ruler, but as the embodiment of stubborn defiance against divine authority. Despite witnessing a series of devastating plagues, each escalating in severity, Pharaoh's heart remains obstinately unyielding. The biblical portrayal of Pharaoh is complex. On one hand, he appears as a villain whose refusal to release the Israelites subjects his people to immense suffering. On the other hand, his hard-heartedness also serves a greater purpose, showing the mighty deeds of God to the world. But I will harden Pharaoh's heart, and though I multiply my signs and wonders in Egypt, he will not listen to you. Exodus 7, 3-4 NIV. Through this, the narrative unfolds not just a battle of wills between Moses and Pharaoh, but a cosmic struggle between the Creator and the ruler of Egypt. The hardening of Pharaoh's heart is both a judgment and a lesson, a dramatic depiction of resistance to divine will. Together, Moses, Aaron, and Pharaoh form a triad of profound significance in the Exodus story. Moses, the reluctant leader transformed by divine commission, Aaron, the supportive voice interpreting God's will, and Pharaoh, the defiant ruler whose resistance sets the stage for God's miraculous deliverance. Their interactions weave a tapestry of faith and resistance, leadership and support, divinity and humanity. In reflecting on these figures, we understand that the Exodus is not merely a tale of liberation, but a profound narrative exploring the dynamics of human roles in the unfolding of divine plans. Lewis would remind us that in their stories we see reflections of our struggles and the assurance that, like Moses, we are upheld by a strength greater than our own. Thus, the figures of Moses, Aaron, and Pharaoh are not distant historical characters, but mirrors in which we might see our own roles and responses in the grand narrative written by the divine author. The story of Exodus, dear reader, is not just an ancient tale, but a profound narrative rich with theological concepts that illuminate the very essence of divine interaction with humanity. Three key themes emerge from this ancient account: liberation, covenant, and divine intervention. First, let us consider the theme of liberation. The Exodus tale begins with the Israelites groaning under the heavy yoke of Egyptian bondage. Their plight is dire, their labor harsh, and their cries for deliverance heartfelt. It is within this context that we witness a powerful truth: God's attentiveness to the suffering of His people. Liberation, in this sense, is not merely an escape from physical bondage, but a multifaceted journey towards spiritual freedom and identity as God's chosen people. The divine declaration, "I have seen the misery of my people," Exodus 3:7, reflects a creator who is intimately aware of human suffering and actively participates in their liberation. This concept profoundly shapes the understanding that God is a liberator, standing against all forms of injustice and oppression. Next, we delve into the covenant, that sacred agreement between God and His people. After their release from Egypt, the Israelites find themselves at the foot of Mount Sinai, where a pivotal moment occurs. Here, through Moses, God offers a covenant, articulating laws and commands that establish a unique relationship between the divine and human realms. The giving of the Ten Commandments symbolizes a commitment not merely of obedience, but of fidelity and trust. This covenant relationship portrays God as a lawgiver and guide who provides a moral compass and a framework for communal and individual behavior. It also promises blessings for obedience and consequences for disobedience, thus shaping theological understandings of God's desire for a just and morally upright community. Finally, the theme of divine intervention weaves throughout the Exodus story, manifesting in miraculous events that defy natural explanation. From the burning bush where God first calls Moses, Exodus 3:2, to the dramatic parting of the Red Sea, Exodus 14:21, these divine acts reveal a God who transcends natural laws to accomplish His purposes. Such interventions are not random displays of power, but deliberate acts designed to teach, guide, and demonstrate God's presence and sovereignty. The plagues of Egypt, for instance, systematically dismantle the pantheon of Egyptian gods, each demonstrating God's supremacy over creation. This theme affirms the belief in a God who is not distant or indifferent, but actively involved in the course of human history, providing signs and wonders to guide his people. The Exodus story, therefore, profoundly shapes theological understandings of God's nature and promises. Through the themes of liberation, we discern a God who hears and acts against oppression. In the covenant, we see a commitment to a relationship grounded in moral and ethical living. And through divine intervention, we witness a God who steps into human history, reshaping reality to fulfill his promises and purposes. This narrative, though ancient, continues to resonate, reminding us of a God who is ever present, ever faithful, and ever working towards the redemption and liberation of his creation. The deeper we delve into the Exodus story, the clearer it becomes that it is not merely a historical account, but a theological tapestry rich with insights into God's character and his intentions for humanity. Through each trial and triumph recorded, we see reflections of liberation from sin, a covenant of grace, and divine intervention that culminates in the ultimate Exodus, the salvation offered through Christ. The lessons of Exodus extend beyond the pages of an ancient book, offering timeless truths for today's seekers of faith and justice. Imagine for a moment, dear reader, the great hall of theological thought, echoing across the ages with the voices of some of the most profound thinkers of Christendom. It is in this august company that we find Augustine of Hippo, Martin Luther, and modern scholars, each approaching the Exodus narrative with a uniquely insightful perspective, and each leaving an indelible mark on our collective understanding of this pivotal biblical account. Augustine, the revered Bishop of Hippo, lived during a time of great transition for the Roman world. His intellect was vast, and he often delved into the allegorical meanings of Scripture. In the Exodus, Augustine saw not merely a historical escape from physical bondage, but a profound spiritual allegory. For him, Egypt represented the world of sin and estrangement from God. The crossing of the Red Sea symbolized baptism, whereby believers pass from the slavery of sin into the freedom of new life in Christ. Augustine's interpretations emphasized the transformative power of divine grace and the ongoing journey of the soul towards the ultimate promised land, a union with God. Fast forward to the Reformation, and we encounter Martin Luther, a man of fiery conviction and reformative zeal. Luther's approach to the Exodus was markedly different from that of Augustine. While he did not eschew allegory altogether, he laid greater emphasis on the literal historical aspects of the narrative. For Luther, the Exodus was a testament to God's faithfulness and the power of his promises. The liberation of the Israelites stood as a parallel to the liberation of all believers from the tyranny of spiritual oppression, fundamentally affirming the doctrine of justification by faith. Luther's reflections on the Exodus reinforced his views on the nature of God's covenant, grace, and the importance of Scripture as the ultimate authority. In more recent times, modern scholars have brought to bear a wealth of additional tools and methodologies in their study of Exodus. Historical criticism, archaeology, and literary analysis have all enriched the conversation. Scholars such as Brevard Childs and Walter Brueggemann have explored the Exodus narrative within the broader context of biblical theology and the socio-political landscapes of ancient Israel and Egypt. They have examined the text's composition, seeking to understand its historical layers and the communities that shaped these sacred stories. Moreover, they have endeavored to discern how the themes of liberation, covenant, and divine presence remain vibrant and relevant for contemporary faith communities. Each of these theologians, whether from the past or present, brings to the Exodus narrative a distinct lens, yet all converge on the profound truth that this ancient story holds vital lessons for faith and life. Augustine calls us to see the spiritual journey from sin to salvation. Luther reminds us of God's enduring promises and faithfulness, and modern scholars challenge us to appreciate the rich tapestry of history, culture, and theology woven into the text. In sum, dear reader, as we reflect on the interpretations of these influential theologians, we are invited into a deeper contemplation of the Exodus. It is more than an ancient tale. It is a mirror reflecting the perennial struggle for freedom, the hope of redemption, and the abiding presence of a God who journeys with his people through the wildernesses of life. May these insights ignite our imagination and strengthen our faith as we, too, walk our own paths of exodus towards the ultimate promise. Now, dear listener, let us turn our attention to the traditional views of the Exodus story, those rich and time-honored perspectives that see this ancient narrative as a historical event of profound significance. The tale begins with the unwavering belief in the sacred texts, where the story of the Exodus etched not merely as myth or legend, but as the chronicle of a divine encounter and miraculous liberation. For millennia, believers in both the Jewish and Christian faiths have upheld the Exodus as a cornerstone of their religious heritage. According to these traditional views, the Exodus is far more than a parable. It is a vivid testament to the power and faithfulness of God. The scriptures recount how the Hebrew people, enslaved under the tyranny of Pharaoh, cried out in their suffering, and how God responded with unwavering mercy and might. "I have indeed seen the misery of my people in Egypt," declares the Lord in Exodus 3, verse 7, a statement that resonates deeply in the hearts of the faithful. Central to this belief is the figure of Moses, the reluctant prophet chosen by God to lead his people out of bondage. The burning bush, the 10 plagues, the crossing of the Red Sea, each event is not merely a tale of old, but an undeniable act of divine intervention, authenticated by the unwavering faith of generations past and present. The traditional perspective is bolstered by the notion of divine revelation and faith declarations. Who could dismiss the fervent testimonies of countless believers who have seen God's guiding hand in their own lives, much as the Israelites experienced God's mighty deliverance from Egypt? It is this bedrock of unwavering faith that propels the traditional view forward, transcending the confines of empirical evidence. Furthermore, long-standing religious teachings fortify this belief. Rabbinic traditions, patristic writings, and ecclesiastical doctrines all weave the Exodus narrative into the very fabric of spiritual identity. Passover, the pivotal Jewish celebration, stands as a living memorial to the Exodus, where each family recounts the story, binds the past to the present, and reaffirms their hope in God's promises. In the Christian tradition, too, the Exodus is integral. It symbolizes the ultimate redemption through Christ, tracing parallels between the liberation from Egypt and the salvation brought by Jesus. This typological understanding underscores the profound continuity between the Old and New Testaments, further cementing the Exodus as a historical and theological cornerstone. Thus, within the hallowed halls of synagogues and churches alike, the Exodus is proclaimed not as a distant memory but as a living truth, a beacon of hope and a testament to the unchanging nature of God. To those who embrace this traditional view, the Exodus is an irrefutable part of their history, a divine narrative that continues to inspire faith and action. And so, dear listener, let us acknowledge the depth and resilience of these traditional views. In their unwavering belief, we see reflected the enduring power of the Exodus story, a tale that transcends time and space, inviting each of us to ponder the profound mystery of faith. Challenges to traditional views. Imagine, if you will, standing at the brink of the Red Sea. The waves crash, the wind howls, and Moses stands tall, staff raised, commanding the waters to part. This scene, vivid in the minds of so many, begs the question, did it really happen as told? To explore this, let us turn our gaze to the realm of critical scholarship and alternative theories, those which throw shadows of doubt upon the traditional portrayal of the Exodus. Egyptology, the scholarly study of ancient Egypt's civilization, presents a labyrinth of artifacts, records, and ruins. Among the treasures unearthed, conspicuously absent are Egyptian records mentioning the Exodus, Moses, or the mass departure of Hebrew slaves. For a nation meticulous in recording its history, this absence is significant. The grand annals of pharaohs, rich in detail of conquests and constructions, are silent on this monumental event. It is akin to finding a great novel with the most thrilling chapter torn out. Historical criticism delves deeper still. Scholars armed with logic and reason scrutinize the biblical texts. They employ methods like source criticism, literary analysis, and archaeological evidence to assess the veracity of the Exodus narrative. Many ask, did the story evolve over centuries, mingling historical kernels with mythic embellishments? One alternative theory suggests the Exodus story conflates multiple smaller events into a single grand narrative. In this view, it wasn't a single mass departure, but several migrations and skirmishes that formed the tapestry of Israelite history. This theory aligns with findings that suggest sporadic uprisings and escapes rather than one dramatic exodus. Moreover, the dating of the Exodus poses another quandary. Traditional views place it in the 13th century BCE, within the reign of Pharaoh Ramesses II. However, discrepancies in archaeological strata lead some scholars to propose an earlier date, complicating the fit between biblical events and the Egyptian timeline. Then there is the notion of foundational myth. This perspective argues the Exodus served as a powerful identity formation story for the Israelites, a narrative constructed to unify and inspire. Similar to the legendary tales of other cultures, like the Romans with Romulus and Remus, it provided a shared origin and a sense of divine favor. In light of critical scholarship and Egyptological findings, challenges to the historicity of the Exodus are robust and varied. They urge us to consider that ancient texts might be as much about meaning and message as they are about literal events. As with any grand story, the truth may lie not only in its factual accuracy, but in its ability to convey deeper truths about human experience and divine mystery. Such challenges provide a fertile ground for reflection, inviting both believers and scholars to ponder the nature of sacred narratives, to seek knowledge, and to find the wisdom to balance faith with reason. Let us embark on an intriguing journey through the annals of ancient narratives, comparing the Exodus story with similar liberation or migration myths found in other cultures. In doing so, we uncover a rich tapestry of human longing for freedom, divine intervention, and the quest for a promised land. The Exodus narrative, with its dramatic tale of oppression, divine deliverance, and the journey to a land of promise, resonates deeply within the psyche of the Judeo-Christian tradition. Yet it is by no means unique. Throughout the ancient world, we find stories strikingly similar in theme and message, each reflecting the cultural and spiritual dynamics of its time and place. Consider the Mesopotamian traditions. Here, we encounter the Epic of Gilgamesh, a foundational saga of a king's quest for immortality and wisdom. While not a tale of mass migration or liberation, it shares the motif of a transformative journey, much like the Israelites' trek from Egypt. Gilgamesh's descent into the underworld and encounters with gods and monsters echo Moses' interactions with Pharaoh and the divine plagues. Another parallel can be drawn with the Babylonian creation epic, Enuma Elish. This narrative speaks of cosmic battles between gods, the triumph of Marduk, and the establishment of order from chaos. The Israelites' passage through the Red Sea mirrors this theme of divine victory and creation of new order. From the chaos of slavery to the establishment of a covenant, people could be seen as Israel's own reordering of the cosmos under Yahweh. Turning to Greek traditions, we find stories of heroes and gods intertwined with themes of journey and transformation. The tale of the Argonauts, led by Jason in search of the Golden Fleece, is one such narrative. Their voyage, fraught with peril and divine encounters, parallels the Israelites' arduous journey to the Promised Land. Both stories encompass the pursuit of a seemingly unattainable goal, aided and thwarted by divine powers, culminating in the revelation of courage and faith. Then, there is the Greek myth of Theseus, whose journey to Crete to slay the Minotaur and liberate his people from the tribute of youths. Theseus's heroism, much like Moses' leadership, is marked by divine assistance and a profound sense of destiny. The labyrinth, akin to the desert wanderings, represents a place of trial and transformation. Across the ancient Near East, such stories abound. They speak of a universal human experience, the struggle against oppression, the journey through hardship, and the hope for a divinely ordained deliverance. Each culture, while unique in its expression, echoes a shared spiritual heritage. What, then, are we to make of these similarities? One might conclude that they diminish the uniqueness of the Exodus, reducing it to mere myth among myths. Yet I suggest a different perspective. The presence of these narratives across cultures underscores a deep-seated recognition of divine justice and the transformative power of faith. Rather than detracting from the Exodus, these stories affirm its enduring truth and universal appeal. In the end, the Exodus narrative stands as a testament to faith's capacity to inspire and sustain. Its resonance with other ancient myths speaks not to its fictionality, but to its profound grasp of the human condition and divine promise. Thus we see in the tale of Moses, as in those of Gilgamesh and Jason, a reflection of our ceaseless journey towards liberation and fulfillment under the guiding hand of providence. The journey through the desert sands of time brings us to a fascinating realm of discovery and speculation, archaeology. Ah, how the very word conjures images of weathered scrolls and ancient artifacts whispering secrets of yesteryears. Let us then, with open hearts and discerning minds, delve into the archaeological discoveries that cast light, or at times shadow, upon the storied Exodus. Imagine yourself standing in the rugged terrain of Sinai. It is here, among the ruins and relics, that archaeologists have toiled under the relentless sun, seeking tangible traces of the Israelites' wanderings. Indeed, several ancient settlements have been unearthed, revealing shards of pottery, remnants of primitive dwellings, and occasional artifacts that tantalize the imagination. Yet, from these fragments, can we piece together a narrative that aligns with the biblical account? One of the more notable finds is the collection of ancient encampments scattered through the regions traditionally identified as part of the route of the Exodus. These campsites, characterized by simple structures and worn pathways, invite intriguing speculation. Did throngs of liberated slaves once dwell here, their spirits buoyed by the promise of a new land? However, as we explore deeper, we encounter a perplexing silence, the conspicuous absence of Egyptian records mentioning the Exodus. Ah, dear reader, this silence is as intriguing as it is deafening. Egypt, a civilization renowned for its meticulous record-keeping, offers us no papyrus scroll, no stone inscription that chronicles the departure of the Hebrews. Some propose that the lack of documentation is due to the Egyptians' reluctance to record events that portrayed them in a less than majestic light. Indeed, pharaohs were often depicted as god-kings, their reigns filled with triumph and divine favor. Could it be that the story of a great escape, facilitated by devastating plagues, was a tale too ignominious to immortalize in stone? Yet others argue that this absence casts doubt upon the historicity of the Exodus. They suggest that the story may have been a later construction, a foundational myth serving to unite a disparate people and forge a collective identity. This hypothesis, though challenging to faith, must be weighed with intellectual honesty. In our quest for understanding, let us ponder the findings of Deir el-Balah, a site that some have tried to connect with the Exodus narrative. Here, in southern Canaan, archaeologists have discovered evidence of a sophisticated Egyptian administrative center dating to the late Bronze Age, around the supposed time of the Exodus. The findings include storage jars stamped with the cartouche of an Egyptian pharaoh, hinting at a period when Egypt's influence stretched far and wide. But what of the artifacts themselves? Tools and pottery, while informative, often speak in a language of utility rather than epic tales. No inscribed tablet has emerged from the sands of Sinai bearing testament to Moses' leadership or the plagues that befell Egypt. The longing for such a discovery continues to fuel many an excavation. This divergence of evidence presents us with an enigma, akin to a puzzle with many missing pieces. The absence of Egyptian records does not, in itself, negate the event. Rather, it beckons us to look beyond the written word, to consider the oral traditions and collective memory preserved in the scriptures. In closing, the archaeological journey through Sinai and beyond is a quest filled with both promise and mystery. Each discovery, whether it be a fragment of pottery or an ancient campsite, adds a brushstroke to the canvas of history. Yet the full portrait of the Exodus, if it indeed can be painted, remains elusive. Dear listener, I invite you to reflect upon these discoveries, to savor the interplay of history and faith. In doing so, may we find that the search itself, the longing to uncover and understand, is a noble pursuit, shining light on the eternal quest for truth. Academic debates on the historicity of the Exodus present a fascinating spectrum of opinions, richly woven into the broader tapestry of scholarly inquiry. At one end of this spectrum, we find the maximalists. These scholars accept the Exodus narrative as a historical account, rooted in real events that transpired in ancient times. They argue that the biblical texts reflect actual occurrences and maintain that archaeological and textual evidence should be interpreted in a way that supports this historicity. To them, the Exodus is not just a story, but a pivotal moment in the history of the Hebrew people, vividly recounting their dramatic escape from bondage. On the opposite end lie the minimalists. They regard the Exodus as a foundational myth rather than an outright historical record. To these scholars, the narrative serves more as a theological and cultural cornerstone, crafted to explain the origins of the Israelite identity and their unique relationship with their deity. They question the lack of corroborative evidence in Egyptian records and other external sources. To minimalists, the Exodus exemplifies the collective memory of a people, infused with divine purpose and moral lessons, rather than a precise chronological event. Between these two positions, a wide array of nuanced views flourishes. Some scholars adopt a mediating stance, suggesting that while the Exodus story may be rooted in real events, the narrative likely underwent significant embellishments and mythologizing over centuries. They propose that elements of the story may have been adapted from other cultural myths or historical experiences, integrated into the collective memory of the Israelites. These scholars seek to balance reverence for the text with critical analysis, acknowledging its profound spiritual significance while probing its historical layers. The debates surrounding the historicity of the Exodus are not merely academic exercises, but are deeply intertwined with issues of faith, identity, and cultural heritage. They prompt us to consider how ancient stories shape our understanding of history and our place within it. Whether viewed through the lens of steadfast belief in its historicity, or as an allegorical myth that conveys timeless truths, the Exodus continues to inspire rigorous exploration and passionate discussion among scholars and believers alike. It is in the account of miraculous events that the Exodus narrative reaches its most dramatic and compelling peaks, where theology and wonder intertwine with tales of divine intervention. These extraordinary occurrences, 10 devastating plagues, the parting of the Red Sea, and the mysterious manna from heaven, are imbued with meanings that have captivated both the devout and the curious for millennia. Let us first consider the 10 plagues, a series of calamities that struck Egypt, each one more devastating than the last. The Nile turned to blood, frogs overran the land, and plagues of gnats, flies, and locusts made their dread visits. Livestock perished, boils afflicted the people, and hailstorms of unparalleled severity battered the land. Darkness enveloped Egypt, and finally, the most grievous plague, the death of the firstborn sons. Here, the theological interpretation frames these plagues not merely as natural disasters, but as acts of divine judgment. Each plague demonstrates God's unparalleled power over the natural and spiritual realms, ultimately compelling Pharaoh to release the Israelites from bondage. The plagues also engage with Egyptian theology. Many scholars note that several of the plagues directly challenge the authority of the Egyptian gods. For instance, the plague of darkness directly counters Ra, the sun god, revered as a powerful deity. Each calamity systematically dismantles the perceived protection and power of the Egyptian pantheon, showcasing the supremacy of the God of Israel. From a scientific perspective, some researchers propose natural explanations for these plagues. The turning of the Nile into blood could be attributed to red algae or pollution that decimated aquatic life. The subsequent plagues, frogs, gnats, flies, might then follow as ecological repercussions, each triggering the next in a cascading series of events. The boils could be seen as outbreaks of disease, while the locusts, hail, and general atmospheric disturbances might reflect extreme weather patterns. High-impact natural events, while undeniably striking, lack the specific intentionality reported in the biblical account. It's the combination of timing, precision, and escalating severity that retains the sense of the miraculous in these events. The crossing of the Red Sea stands as perhaps the most iconic and revered miracle within this narrative. The story tells of Moses raising his staff, the waters parting, and the Israelites walking on dry ground with walls of water standing tall on either side. The pursuing Egyptian forces, engulfed as the sea returns to its place, are swept away. This deliverance underscores the themes of salvation and divine providence that resonate deeply within the faith traditions that hold the Exodus close. Scientifically, hypotheses abound regarding the parting of the Red Sea. Some suggest a phenomenon known as a wind set-down effect, where strong sustained winds push back waters in specific shallow areas, potentially exposing land bridges temporarily. While such events have been observed, the scope, timing, and utility described in the Exodus story suggest more than mere coincidental natural occurrences. The portrayal of a deliberate, orchestrated escape reinforces the narrative's spiritual significance, a direct and miraculous intervention by God to preserve His chosen people. Lastly, we encounter manna from heaven, the sustenance of the Israelites during their desert sojourn. Described as bread raining from the sky, it is depicted as God's provision for His people's needs in the wilderness. This bread had specific characteristics. It appeared daily, except on the Sabbath, could be gathered in sufficient amounts, and spoiled if hoarded. Scholars suggest that manna might have been a natural substance, such as resin from certain desert plants, or secretions from insects like the tamarisk tree scale. These substances, though edible and available in the arid environment, do not quite match the detailed description and behaviors of manna provided in the biblical account. The theological perspective here emphasizes manna as a symbol of God's ongoing daily provision and care, reassuring the Israelites of His presence and support throughout their journey. In conclusion, the miraculous events of the Exodus, while open to various interpretations, carry profound theological weight. They serve as a testament to divine power, judgment, and mercy. Whether seen through the eyes of faith or investigated through the lens of science, these miracles continue to inspire awe and contemplation, inviting us to reflect on the nature of the divine and the extraordinary means through which providence can unfold. In the grand tapestry of religious history, few stories hold as much resonance and ongoing impact as that of the Exodus. This ancient narrative continues to inspire faith and practice across disparate yet venerable traditions. Its legacy is most evident in Judaism and Christianity, where the tale of deliverance and divine intervention is celebrated and upheld with solemn reverence and spirited devotion. For the Jewish faith, the Exodus is not merely a historical recount, but the bedrock of their identity and faith practice. Paramount among these observances is the festival of Passover, known in Hebrew as Pesach. Each year, Jewish families around the world gather to commemorate the night when the Lord passed over the houses of the Israelites, sparing them from the final plague that befell Egypt. The Passover Seder, a ritual meal, is a profound embodiment of this memory, where each element of the meal represents an aspect of the Israelites' bondage and subsequent liberation. Through the reading of the Haggadah, Jews retell the story of Exodus, instilling in every generation a deep sense of continuity with their ancestors' journey from slavery to freedom. This ritual not only preserves their historical consciousness, but reinvigorates their commitment to principles of liberty and justice, which are at the heart of Jewish teaching and ethical conduct. Christianity, too, finds in the Exodus a wellspring of spiritual lessons, particularly the themes of liberation and divine faithfulness. It underscores the belief in a God who hears the cries of the oppressed and acts to deliver them. For Christians, the story resonates through the teachings of Jesus Christ, who is seen as a new Moses, leading humanity out of the bondage of sin and into the promised land of salvation. The narrative of the Exodus serves as an allegory for the spiritual journey of believers, moving from the slavery of sin through the trials of faith, akin to the wilderness, and toward the promised hope of eternity in God's presence. The lessons of perseverance, trust in divine provision, and the transformative power of faith are frequent themes in Christian teachings and sermons. The Exodus is also reflected in Christian liturgy and worship, often evoked in hymns and prayers that call upon God to lead believers with the same steadfastness and mercy as He did the Israelites. In both faiths, the Exodus story functions as a moral compass and a source of inspiration. It beckons believers to remember their spiritual heritage and to cling to the conviction that, no matter the trials faced, deliverance and divine justice are assured. This perennial influence underscores the story's timeless relevance as it continues to inform and shape religious identity and practice. As we consider the lasting impact of the Exodus on faith and practice, it is evident that this ancient story is far more than a historical account. It is a living narrative, imprinted on the hearts and minds of millions, perpetually retold and reinterpreted with each generation. It affirms the enduring human aspiration for freedom and the unwavering belief in a transformative, benevolent, divine presence, guiding and sustaining the faithful across the ages. Throughout the annals of time, stories that stir the soul and ignite the imagination are often given form in the creations of artists. The narrative of the Exodus is no exception, having been etched, painted, written, and projected across various mediums, each endeavoring to capture the profound essence of this ancient saga. Let's turn our eyes first to the world of classical paintings. Imagine standing before a canvas splashed with the vivid hues of history, where masters like Nicolas Poussin and David Roberts have brought to life the harrowing plight and divine deliverance of the Hebrews. In Poussin's The Crossing of the Red Sea, we see not merely a moment in time, but a divine tableau where the waters part like celestial curtains, revealing the dramatic interplay between human despair and divine providence. Literature, too, has served as a fertile ground for retelling and reimagining the Exodus. From the poetic cadences of John Milton's Paradise Lost, which alludes to the broad strokes of the Mosaic journey, to the more direct retellings in novels and plays that seek to explore the human dimensions behind the biblical text. These works of literature do more than recount events. They dig deeper, finding the pulse of human struggle, faith, and redemption that beats at the heart of the Exodus tale. And then, in the glow of the silver screen, we encounter a more contemporary interpretation through films. Cecil B. DeMille's The Ten Commandments stands as a monumental cinematic achievement, its epic scope bringing to vivid life the trials and triumphs of Moses and his people. Here, in Technicolor splendor, the story is retold for generations anew, casting a long shadow across the realm of visual storytelling. Indeed, the Exodus narrative extends its reach even further, permeating contemporary culture in myriad forms. It echoes in the spirituals of African American slaves, who found in the story a powerful metaphor for their own quest for liberation. It appears in political rhetoric, utilized as a powerful symbol of freedom and justice. It is cited in sermons and speeches, a timeless reminder of the eternal fight against oppression and the relentless journey toward the promised land. We find that each artistic endeavor, each stroke of a brush, turn of a phrase, or frame of film, seeks to tap into the inexhaustible well of inspiration that the Exodus provides. The story's ability to resonate and renew itself in the imagination of each generation speaks to its deep and abiding significance. It stands as a testament not only to its historical and religious importance, but also to its place in the collective consciousness of humanity. Thus, as we observe the various depictions of the Exodus across the wide expanse of art and culture, we see it as more than just a story, a reflection of our highest hopes, our profound doubts, and our unwavering search for meaning. Let us continue to draw inspiration from it and find within its enduring narrative a beacon of hope, a call to perseverance, and a reminder of the divine purpose that guides us through the vast desert of existence toward our own promised lands. As we draw to a close, let's take a moment to recapitulate the main points we have journeyed through together. We embarked on an exploration of the historical context within which the Exodus narrative unfolds, peering into the ancient world of Egypt with its pharaohs and the plight of the Hebrew slaves. We delved into archaeological evidence, scrutinizing findings, and the notable absence of references to the Exodus in Egyptian records. Our venture led us to the theological significance of the story, pondering the profound themes of liberation, covenant, and divine intervention. Lastly, we examined the cultural impact, recognizing how this ancient story has woven itself into countless forms of art, literature, and film, continually resonating with succeeding generations. Whether you view the story of Exodus as a chapter of historical fact or a tapestry of allegorical myth, its profound significance remains undiminished. This tale, rich with promise, perseverance, and divine mystery, continues to inspire both believers and scholars alike. It challenges us to reflect on themes that transcend the ages, the nature of suffering, the quest for freedom, and the enduring hope in divine providence. In closing, I encourage you to ponder the importance of the Exodus story in your own life and faith. Consider its themes, its lessons, and its enduring legacy. Allow it to inspire a deeper exploration of your own beliefs and a greater understanding of the world around you. If you have found this journey enriching, I warmly invite you to subscribe to this channel and like this video. Your engagement is invaluable. Please leave your thoughts in the comments below and suggest any topics you would like us to explore in future videos. Thank you for joining us on this exploration. May the story of the Exodus continue to inspire and guide you on your own life's journey. Until next time, stay curious and keep seeking. Let us conclude this journey into the depths of an ancient and enduring story with a moment of reflection and supplication. Heavenly Father, as we reflect on the story of Exodus, grant us wisdom and understanding to discern your truths. May the lessons of faith, liberation, and perseverance inspire us daily. Bless us with the courage to seek knowledge and the faith to trust in your ultimate plan.